Hi, folks, welcome back. So, I think a lot of us are sleeping on the potential of remote MCP servers for building really cool integrations with LLMs and AI. The big development that's happened in the last month or so is that a lot of first-party providers have been providing remote MCP servers for their products or data stores. For example, here's Atlassian providing an MCP server for their products like Jira and Confluence. But I think a really cool one is Zapier, simply because Zapier has so many integrations. That's their whole selling point. And they have this really cool ability now to generate an MCP endpoint for those integrations. And once you have this remote MCP URL, MCP endpoint, you can hook it into any MCP client like Claude Desktop, of course, but there's a bunch of other ones. So I was playing around with this a little bit, and I want to quickly record how it works. So if you come to mcp.zapier.com, you can set up a new MCP server, and I did this one as just a Python MCP server rather than a Claude one. And then you can start adding integrations. You can add any of the integrations that Zapier has. I already went ahead and added some integrations for Google Tasks. When you first do this, it'll do the OAuth dance with Google to make sure that Zapier has permissions to actually go and see your tasks in Google Tasks. But you could do this for Google Drive or Calendar or Gmail or a bunch of other integrations. But once you configure this, Zapier will then give you an MCP URL. So it'll give you this URL, and this URL is supposed to be treated like a password, because knowing this URL will let you invoke actions on this integration, in this case, our tasks. So if I look at my Google Tasks, I have one task here, and I've got a little sample piece of code over here. So this is the full URL. Don't worry, I'll take down this URL after this video. And I'm just first gonna list all the tools. So this Python program is simply fetching all the available tools and listing them out. So if I run this, it gave me all the Google Tasks tools that it has access to. Now I'm using FastAgent as a Python MCP client in this case, and my FastAgent code looks something like this. I simply define a FastAgent, give it an instruction saying you are a tasks assistant, and I point it to my MCP server, which is configured here. So FastAgent comes with a config.yaml file, and one of the paragraphs in there configures your MCP servers. These are some examples that it came with, but over here, I configure my new Zapier MCP server. So I give it the URL and the transport, and that's really all you need, because you can query the URL itself to figure out what tools it has. So let's run it and see how this works. So I'll say something what tasks do I have? And you can see it making the tool call over here. So it's making tool calls, and it said, there you go, I need to clean my desk, it needs action. So let me say I've done that. I did clean my desk, please mark that task as completed. All right, there you go. So it marked that task as completed. If I see my completed tasks, all right, I can't find it under my completed tasks, but it went away from my outstanding tasks. But let's try to create a new task. Add a new task for me to clean my car. And you can see it's making the tool call over here, and then this task showed up. All right, so that was just a quick demo of how you can essentially use Zapier as this giant integration funnel for a bunch of integrations, and then all those integrations can show up as simply a remote MCP server that you can then use with a bunch of MCP clients or just Python code to start making tool calls against those MCP endpoints. And this is a pretty fast way of doing it. And there's a bunch of first-party MCP servers like from Atlassian as well. So this ecosystem of remote MCP servers is growing pretty well.